If you're approaching your due date and wondering how to tell if you're in labor, this video is going to be for you. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Tanya Hladek and I'm a mom, doula, childbirth educator in Portland, Oregon. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the signs of labor and the stages of labor. This video is for you if you are approaching your due date and you're wondering what the signs of labor might be like. So in the first part of this video, I'm going to talk to you about what signs are that labor might be on its way. So early warnings that your body might be gearing up for labor. And then in the second part of the video, I'm going to talk to you about the stages of labor. So things that happen when you are in fact in labor. So let's get into it. What are these signs that labor might be around the corner? Well, first off, you might lose your mucus plug. When you become pregnant, your cervix develops this mucus membrane called the mucus plug, and it sits at the opening of your cervix. When your cervix starts to soften or dilate, often this mucus plug can start breaking up and coming out. And what that would look like to you would be when you go to the bathroom, you might notice some blood-tinged or brown-tinged mucus, either when you wipe or in your underwear. And that's a good sign that your cervix is starting to dilate. So some cervix start to dilate before labor, and so you can start to see that in a few days before labor begins. As an example of how this can vary, I personally didn't lose my mucus plug until I was closer to 9 centimeters dilated, so really close to pushing my baby out. And likewise, I had a client once who lost her mucus plug, or at least she was pretty certain she lost her mucus plug, only to have it reform and for her to not go into labor for several weeks afterwards. So for the most part, it does mean that labor is around the corner, but again, it's not just because you haven't seen your mucus plug and you're having other signs of labor doesn't mean that labor won't be on the way. And then likewise, just losing your mucus plug every once in a while doesn't mean that labor is on its way. So that's the way it goes. Another sign that labor might be on its way is cramping, kind of period-like cramps that can radiate into your thighs. It can come and go a little bit. So any kind of cramping is a really good sign that your body might be gearing up for labor. You also might feel that cramping in your back. So it might sort of be more around the base of your spine that you're starting to feel some new and different pain than you might have been feeling in your pregnancy. Usually, if you've had back pain in pregnancy, it just feels different. It might even come and go because it's actually related to your body having early contractions. Another sign that labor might be on its way is having unusually loose stools. As your body gears up to labor, sometimes it just kind of empties everything out to get ready to go on this big journey of labor. In this stage before labor begins, some women can start to dilate. I've had clients walk around at 4 centimeters dilated for several weeks before they go into labor. If your provider offers you a cervical check, just know that that information both means something and it also means nothing in terms of knowing when you're going to go into labor. It's kind of like novel information. Some people just dilate before they go into labor, and it doesn't necessarily mean a shorter labor, but it does mean that your body's doing some work to get into labor. And now we're going to move into talking about the stages of labor, or definite signs that you are actually in labor. The way that labor is divided up is into stages. 4 stages, actually. So the first stage is labor. The second stage is pushing. The third stage is the birth of your placenta. And the fourth stage is recovery or bonding time. The first stage is defined by rhythmic labor that is continuously getting stronger and stronger and helping to soften and open your cervix. This happens in 3 parts: early labor, active labor, and transition. In early labor, contractions can come and go. Sometimes they're 10 to 20 minutes apart, maybe lasting only 20 to 30 seconds. They might start somewhat irregular and get closer together, or maybe you get into an activity and you don't even notice them for a little while. During early labor, your body is doing the initial work of softening and opening your cervix. Early labor often corresponds with your cervix being 0 to 4 centimeters dilated. This stage can last a few hours or even a few days. As labor progresses, your contractions will get longer, stronger, and closer together, eventually getting into a rhythm that is similar to a pattern where the contractions come every 4 or 5 minutes, last for a minute, and this has happened for a full hour. That's a good sign that you could consider yourself in active labor. Being in active labor is usually when you would go to the hospital or birth center if that's where you're giving birth, or call your midwives to have them join you at home if you're having a home birth. Sometimes providers want you to be a little bit further along, closer to 6 centimeters dilated, so waiting just a little bit longer in active labor to call them, but that's generally for a first-time birth. If this is your second or third or even fourth birth or more, this isn't necessarily going to be exactly right for you, and you should correspond with your care provider to figure out when to summon care. It can be a little bit more of a guessing game in subsequent births, but for first-time births, this is generally pretty true. Other signs that you're in active labor is that contractions now take your full attention. Often in early labor, you can distract yourself, and you really should. It's a great time to cook something, clean a little, go for a walk, enjoy some snuggles with your partner, and just to generally not overly focus on your contractions because it can kind of make the process feel longer, which can be challenging because birth is also a really big mental game. But once you're in active labor, you really won't be able to be distracted from your contractions. You probably won't find things to be very funny anymore, although some people still retain their humor even in this stage. But you won't probably react during your contraction. You'll probably be more inward and really in your contraction while it's happening and needing the full focus so that you can get through the contraction. And that intentionally just continues to sort of ramp up until you get into what's called transition. And transition is called transition because it's the transition between the active labor portion of your birth and the pushing portion of your birth. It usually is marked by being one of the most intense parts of your labor. Often this is the time when people feel like they kind of want to jump out the window of their birth, like they want to leave. They're like, can I get out of here? Often people will say things like, I can't do this anymore, and they really mean it. Or like, I'm ready to quit. And that is a really good sign that you're in transition. It's really intense. Often, like if touch had been really helpful, that usually doesn't feel any good because the senses really heighten. The first part of birth, oxytocin is really a big part of the birth hormones. And this is the point where a little bit of adrenaline can start to kick in to give you energy for pushing. And so senses can kind of heighten, especially like if we were in the wild and needing to escape danger. Taste is extra heightened, smell is heightened. Maybe you were using some essential oil like lavender to kind of help you find your peace in active labor, and then suddenly it just smells way too intense and awful and you have to have it taken away. All of these are really good signs that you're getting super close to pushing your baby out. And then once you're 10 centimeters dilated and you start having an active feeling of needing to push, then you've transitioned into the pushing stage. The pushing stage is just like it sounds like. It's the stage where you push your baby out, and that can last 10 minutes for some people, very brief, and sometimes it can last hours. It's not uncommon for it to take 2 or more hours for someone who is pushing out their first baby. So how long does the laboring stage and pushing stage of birth last? It's really varied. Some people can have several days of early labor before their body kicks into active labor, and some people almost seem to just hop right into active labor. And active labor also can be really varied. Some people, it can be just a few hours, and some people it could be another full day. The average for a first-time birth is 12 hours of active labor. And then likewise, the pushing stage can take another 2 to 4 hours for a first-time birth. But for some people, that stage can be really quick as well. It's all, again, really varied. Even 2 births with the same person can be really wildly different. And so to keep that in mind, that there's a lot of fluidity, and it can be really hard to know where you are in the process. Even as someone who's been to hundreds of births, it can still be really confusing to know where somebody is at for sure. All of the signs of labor don't really tell you anything except where you've been and where you are, and where you're going is kind of a mystery every time. So you might be 5 centimeters dilated and it might take another 12 hours to get to pushing or the birth of your baby, or maybe it'll be really short. I've had some births where I had a really long early labor, active labor was a little long, and then suddenly something happened and baby was born within an hour. Cervical checks are helpful information sometimes, but they don't always give you good information about what's going to happen next. Sometimes there's periods of dilation that take a really long time, and then more dilation happens really quickly. And, vice versa, there can be lags in the time. It's all kind of helpful and also not always necessary. And the third stage is the birth of your placenta. Your placenta is pretty cool, and it's done a pretty amazing job. So, it makes sense that it has its own stage. And it can be easy to forget after you gave birth to your baby that you also then have to give birth to your placenta. You might be like really relishing in like, wow, my baby's born, and wow, here we are meeting for the first time, or just completely tired from giving birth, and then your provider will let you know when it's time. Pushing your placenta out after you've given birth is generally pretty easy because it has no bones. It's just kind of forms into an easy to push out little blob of amazing organ that nourished your baby for the months that your baby was in your womb. Your placenta does all of this amazing work to keep your baby alive while you're pregnant. And then the moment your baby is born, it knows that its job is done, and it detaches from your uterus and it comes out within generally 15 minutes after your birth, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little sooner. But it really doesn't overstay its welcome. And after pushing your baby out, pushing your placenta out is really nothing, just kind of slides easily out with a few pushes. After your placenta is out, you come into this fourth stage, which is recovery, which is also sometimes referred to as the golden hour, because it's really this prime time for you and your baby to kind of bond. It's this time for bonding. Sometimes they'll explore breastfeeding in this time, and really your body's recovering from this major event that just happened and giving birth. I hope you found that helpful and it helps you understand what to look out for as you approach labor. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, and you can subscribe to hear more from me. I'll be coming back with more birth content soon. If you want to hear more about the physiology of birth, I'm going to link a video I did about oxytocin in the show notes. Until next time, ciao.